All right, thank you very much, Abdul Salam Jibril, for that historic background for our conversation this morning. We're just having some chit chat while that was going on with distinguished guests in the studios, very experienced persons who participated in politics before and, of course, still now in the context of the Fourth Republic. Let's welcome distinguished Senator Ibrahim Shekarau. He's also a former governor of Kano State. Excellency, distinguished Senator, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have from our Benin studio, Tony Abolo. Tony Abolo is a veteran broadcaster, media consultant, and trainer in media studies. So welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very, very much. I'm glad to be here.
So have Dr. Mustafa Ibrahim Lemu is right with us here in the studio, and Mustafa Ibrahim Lemu is a member publicity committee of the Third Republic House of Representatives Forum, also the First Forum for Defense of National Interest, FDNI, and he's also a former commissioner in Niger State. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, once again, it's our pleasure to have you for today's conversation. Let's begin here in our Abuja studios. Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, 23 years on, how is our democracy?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very complex and difficult assessment. I think on the whole, one can say that it's a little above average. The reason being that we have transited from civilian administration to another civilian administration, and one of the beautiful aspects of it was that an opposition party defeating a sitting government of the ruling party. And I think this is one of the beauties of democracy. Of course, that does not mean we have not had any turbulence and difficulties and challenges. Another reason why I said this fair or above average is that we cannot deny the fact that there were some few developmental programs or projects, both at state and local government and even at the national level. Never mind the challenges, the difficulties, the corruption along the line, the insincerity, the problem of the political parties, instability. You see, these are of course part of what I said, the learning process. I think on the whole, when we look at the various sectors of development. In terms of infrastructure, of course, we have a lot of deficit in the infrastructural growth and development, but at least we cannot say it's totally zero. There are some growth. If you talk at the national level, some few major interstate roads have been constructed over the years. We have gotten the railway back on track, even though at a very slow pace, but at least it is moving. If you look at the educational sector, between 1999 to date, we've had growth in the opportunities. For example, in time as Minister of Education, within a span of 1 year, we had about 11 new universities, which gave thousands, hundreds of thousands of our children opportunities to go to school, even though we have millions still in the waiting. The same thing if you look at the agricultural sector. I'm aware the efforts in many states and the effort even of the federal government and so on. So I think one can say that we haven't gotten there yet in our goal and expectations, the challenges. But I think we're moving. The only thing that I think we are really battling with is getting the right leadership. That we cannot deny. That issue of leadership, which is the main driving force in getting things right. It's one thing to have a vision, to have the mission, but how to get there through the right leadership is yet another thing. You have beautiful written manifestos. There's all the parties. When you pick their manifestos, you begin to jump. Like, that is beautiful. None of the parties has any blow-up manifestos. But unfortunately, as I always say, how many of those elected into office have really even read the manifestos of the parties? I think I will not be totally wrong if I say that more than 60-70% of those that get into office hardly even go through the manifestos of the parties. So we end up implementing personal wishes of the leaders, not really the program of the parties. And unfortunately, the political parties don't seem to put in place the machinery to check whether those elected are really pursuing the manifestos that the parties use in campaigning, and they're written well, very well written in the party. So I think these are some of the challenges that, and of course, the electors need to be more enlightened. And one final thing that I've always has always given me some concern. By INEC record, we have over 82 million registered voters. But we end up electing a president who's 15 million.
Yeah,
So I think where all these 50, 60 million. So the voter apathy is one of the shortcomings of our democracy. We need to look at that.
We'll look at and keep talking about the challenges, the pains, and the gains as we move into this discussion so deeply. Yeah. Mustafa Ibrahim Lemo.
Yes.
The question just more or less the same one. What would you add to what the senator said as regards our journey 23 years ago when we started, when we started democracy, talking about some 3 years on now, and then how far we fared in democratic rule?
I think I will look at it from another perspective, in the sense that His Excellency has brought out some of the gains and some of the, the weaknesses, I would rather say, that have manifested within the 23 years. But here, you realize that we have also, made some significant achievements, particularly in enhancing and strengthening the electoral process. Here, I want to point out that if you look at how we started in the Third Republic, it was option A4, this or that, and people were actually asked to queue behind whoever it is they wanted to elect. Now we have recorded a lot of improvement because the process now has gone, has bring in technology. And I think that in a way had helped to reduce the level of rigging as far as the system is concerned. And I think that is one area that we need to keep on improving upon. In another particular area, I think we also have to realize that something significant happened when a sitting government wanted to extend the tenure. People were very, very consistent in going against that process. In other words, the political development had reached a stage where people are ready to defend the constitution. And I think that is a significant, improvement, I will have said. With all the manipulation, with all the money that was brought onto the table, people stood their ground and insisted 2 tenure is 2 tenure. You cannot extend it. That is another significant area. Now, if we come to another area, INEC itself has been improving in terms of its confidence to use the law to protect the system. And I think here the example I want to bring is when at a stage attempts were made to truncate the process of declaring the result. I think at one time INEC stood its ground, and you can see quite recently INEC is taking a position where it is insisting, I am the umpire and I'm ready to insist that the right thing should be done. I would want to bring the example of Zamfara, where things were not were not transparent, we have difficulties, and people were expecting that ANEC will accept it. But ANEC insisted, if as a party you refuse to do what is required of you, I'm going to use what I have, the power to say you didn't do it right, therefore you won't participate. And things are, actually improving. What we need to enhance the process is to have everybody that has a role to keep to that role and insist on doing what is supposed to be done in terms of the obligation and the responsibility of the participants. So I think all these are areas where we can say we have had a lot of improvements. But like His Excellency said, in the process of getting the job done, the parties are actually not doing the right thing most of the time. It's not that they don't even read the manifestos. The manifestos are not even available. You finish a manifesto, you go to a party secretary and say, I need to read your manifesto, and somebody will have to say, oh, I don't have a copy, give me 1-2 days before I can even produce a manifesto for you. It means we have a problem. And let me just add this finally. When you are actually trying to enhance the system, you have a situation where people have constituted themselves into interest group. And the interest, the way they pursue the interest is so manipulative, so anti-democratic that you believe that unless we change things in that direction, we will not get to where we want to get to.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Mustafa Lemu, for your opening shot on this very interesting conversation. Now, we have another guest who is joining us via Zoom. He is distinguished Senator Surajuddin Ajibade Bashiru is the chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Senator Bashiru, Surajuddin, pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Ajibola Bashiru Surajuddin, not Ajibade.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me retract that. Yeah, Ajibola rather. Not Ajibade. So thank you very much for the correction. But we'll come back to you in the course of this conversation, because we earlier introduced Mr. Tony Abolo, veteran journalist and broadcaster from our Benin Network studios. Mr. Tony Abolo, 23 years of the Fourth Republic. What do you think?
I would like to align myself with the first two guests who've spoken, Governor Shekarawu. I think he created a very good signposting for us to review 23 years. But one wants to add, when you look at the issue he raised about parties, I think I want to link it with parties and governance. You know, that is one dislocation we have encountered in the last few years. And we should point out, it all happened around when we had Chief or General Obasanjo, whichever way you want to call it, when he introduced the fact that the governor or the president is the leader of the party. That message has sunken and has dislocated party structure, party discipline, authority of the chairman. And you find that parties are not well run. They're like parastatals, and that is not good enough. You know, we need to go back. Remember in the days of Awolowo, go back to Akinloye of NPN, way back. I mean, they really kept government in check. And they really were the people who held the manifestos and who were saying that the government of the day, or whatever level, whether at the regional level or federal level, kept to the promises of the parties. And then that leads on to the fact of looking at leadership, which the governor did point out. And that is a very crucial question. But I link it with the fact that we now monetize, to use your word, Kingsley, in the introduction, the monetization, which is really obscene. What we've seen this year is a nada of corruption. How dare you give somebody $50,000? And then you begin to ask yourself, and look at the amount they use for the forms. So when you now look at that, are the delegates giving us the right people to vote in as leaders, or are we creating some kind of confusion and using money to put in anybody in place? Those are the things that should begin to worry us. And then I would also like to add an element that we don't seem to be very, very persistent about, and that is the concept of nation building. We cannot talk about democracy without looking at nation building. It takes years. But have we we have a lot of educated people, we have read history, people have looked at other continents, people have looked at other people. Then we now ask ourselves, are we looking at what other people have done and then skip their errors and then correct ourselves and move faster than we are doing? It's all very slow. We are not even uniting the people. I'd like to go back to that famous statement of Radio Nigeria: uplift the nation and unite the people. Are we uniting the people? That mantra coming from FRCN or Radio Nigeria is excellent. Uplift the nation and unite the people. Are we doing that? If we continue to focus on that, that is really looking at the ball and not missing our eyes off it. Then we'll now get the democracy that we're looking for really right. And lastly, I would like to also add this, that democracy is much more than, well, you said it's a journey and not a destination. Fine, but it requires us, just like in management, it must be a culture. A culture of democracy means, even in the homes, in the mosques, in the churches, in the clubs, in the universities, in wherever we find ourselves, there must be a democratic ethos, a democratic attitude. And when you get that democratic attitude, then you are now ready to say, when people go into politics, which is another level of management at the public sector, they will carry democracy. And that's why, because it's not an attitude, we don't even imbibe it and we don't even understand it for now. And that's why the parties are so disorganized and governments are not even delivering the famous dividends of democracy. Because if there is an attitude of democracy, then those principles of rule of law, those ideas of doing the common good, when you do the common good and doing the best for the greatest majority, then you can now begin to talk about democracy. Otherwise, it's just a vacuous journey. So we ought to be more purposeful. Leadership and enlightening the electorate, and then let the government and let electors in themselves even hold their leaders accountable. Because that's one thing. We're not enlightening them about holding the people accountable. And we in the media too, that's another aspect we should be worried about. There in section 2.2 of the Constitution has mandated us a constitutional responsibility of the media to hold those in government accountable to the people. Are we doing that? We, the media, should lead the way and enlighten the citizenry. Then after that, when you hold the leadership accountable, then they will not misbehave. Then the dividends will come. Then democracy will be deepened.
Thank you so much, Tony Abolo. Tony Abolo is a veteran broadcaster and, of course, a media consultant. Let's hear the views of Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru on this issue. We introduced you lately. I don't know whether you've been following us from the beginning. We had, Senator Ibrahim Shekaro earlier said, the journey has been fairly good, and of course we need a better leadership or right leadership to, run the parties and the government generally. And of course, just right away you must have heard what Tony said, and Lemu talked about the improvement in the electoral process, and of course, it's increased confidence in some other issues. What would you add, Surajuddin, on these issues as regards Nigeria's journey, 23 years down the line, democracy?
Yes, thank you. And I've also had some of the contributions by the panelists in the House. I would say, first and foremost, I congratulate Nigerians for the celebration of 20 years of uninterrupted democratic governance, if I may use that word. You will discover that the journey to democracy in Nigeria has been a very challenging one. The First Republic barely survived 6 years. You also see that the Second Republic also barely survived another 5 years. Then of course the Third Republic was actually a mirage because it was strangulated by the military architecture in that regard. So for us to have in the Fourth Republic 23 years of unbroken change of leadership in using the ballot is salutary and commendable. I will also say that the fact that we have an evolving democracy, definitely there will be challenges. So I will align myself with the position of my leader, Senator Shekarau, His Excellency, that so far so good. It has not been a story of woes. It has not been a story of failure. We have had, a lot of developments that are positive in this regard. And as a politician, I will say that it appears that there is evolving a drive from the populace to take those of us in political space accountable, even though we have not reached that Senate that some other advanced democracy are seeing. You will discover that even currently as I speak, quite a sizable number of members of National Assembly will not be returning, largely because some had gone to take some other responsibility, or because some had actually not been able to secure the mandate of their party to return back, and some may also not be able to secure the mandate of the general populace in their electorate. This speaks to the fact that gradually the ballot begins to count. You will recall that the hour of snatching of ballot paper, arbitrary writing of results is already becoming a thing of the past. Yes, also the fact that our political parties need to be strengthened to be able to really deliver what the role of a political party will be. What we have now largely is what I call special purpose vehicle, only for the purpose of election, and that is why there appear to be easy migratory movement from one political party to the other. We also see that the political parties don't really play the role of being able to coalesce ideas and galvanize members toward realization of certain goal, which ideally is the purpose of political parties. So there's much to be gained in strengthening and have political parties in the real sense of it. In terms of electoral system, I also agree with one of the earlier speakers that we have made tremendous progress, and I think implementation of the new Electoral Act, particularly as relates to introduction of electronic accreditation system and transmission of results. I've looked through the new guideline by the National Electoral Commission. I believe if strictly adhered to, it will really do a lot of justice to ensuring that we have a free and fair contest. And for me, I see a correlation between good democratic, fair and fair election and good government, because there will now be the demand on the political leadership to ensure that they perform and deliver the goods to the people, so that they will not be booted out at the next election. So we must continue to engage the electoral process and ensure that we deliver. Then in terms of electoral justice, I think a certain amendment to the first schedule to Electoral Act stipulating guidelines for the election petition is also salutary. It will ensure that the petitioners as well as those respondents get justice within the electoral system. But more fundamental is that for democracy to thrive, you need a more enlightened populace. You need civic orientation, and of course, we need to go back to the part of ensuring that citizen governance is very germane in our political processes. The strength of leadership in a democratic system is going to be determined by the strength of the electorate in terms of their understanding of the demands of good governance and the demands they need to put on those to be elected. So I would say that civic orientation, civic engagement, and of course, economic advancement of the people is also very important. When you see a situation whereby the mass of the people are largely disenfranchised economically, it brings a situation whereby vote buying and inducement of voter will be the order of the day. I will tell you that one of the things that is challenging our democratic process is the phenomenon of vote buying. We have seen it occur in general election, and we have also seen it occur even in intra-party electoral process. The danger of this is that terrorists and individuals who don't mean well for the country with very large force will be able to take over leadership using the same democratic process. So there's much we need to do at the legislative level, at the executive level, and on the part of INEC. How do we address the challenge of vote buying? I also reading through the history of democratic process in the United States. At some point, they also were confronted with that challenge of vote buying. What vote buying does is that it actually discounted from the essence of democratic principle of people freely, willing, without inducements, choosing those that will lead them. So those are part of the challenges we need to look at. But all said and done, I will say that looking at the impunity, looking at the apparent, the clear lack of accountability by the military government, you will see that incrementally our development is coming to our people, even though not at the speed, at the space and the speed that is very gladdening to some of us. But we believe that over time, the correlation between credible democratic process and living on good governance and welfare of the people would definitely manifest. Of course, the insecurity is challenging our democratic process. We need, as a government, to go back and look at our security architecture. You cannot have free, fair election in an atmosphere of fear and insecurity. And I want to reiterate that whatever anybody feels, this is the time for us to go back to the idea of decentralizing Nigerian police by having state police properly equipped and properly trained to be able to address the problem of policing of our country.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, there for your comments. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Now, we'll return to our Abuja studios. Of course, on this question, which should be of interest to both Tony Abulo and Senator Bashiru. My question goes to Senator Shekarau. Can we attempt to gauge citizen satisfaction with our democracy from 3 years on?
Well, I think going by what we hear, what we read in the general public, I think there is a lot of dejection, dissatisfaction in many aspects. You see, particularly in the issue of this insecurity, is virtually a concern of every community, the concern of every responsible citizen. And the general impression on the street is that government has failed. We cannot run away from that government has failed. That, of course, is the understanding generally. Because the concern of the ordinary citizen is that you protect him, let him go to his business, let him go to his farm safely. If you're not able to do that, then there is no government. And the enlightened group kept on reminding the public that the number one responsibility of any government is to protect life and properties. And if they are being taken by the days, you wonder really whether we are making any progress. Those of us that are part of the government and have been part of the government, we know the challenges, of course. You see, the issue of the number of the security operatives is another thing. The issue of equipment, the issue of welfare, the issue of training and all of that. And I think government needs to do a little more. And I subscribe to the argument of my friend and brother, Senator Ajibola, that we need to bring the issue of security down to the communities. This issue of community policing, I think I've explained this in a number of fora. With all sense of responsibility and modesty, I implemented community policing. Call it anything. In Kano, we call it the Hisba Guards. We recruited, and what we did, we set up a small team in the locality, headed by the traditional ruler, district head, village head, the imam, the pastor, the judge, and whatever, a team of about 10. And we asked them to select 20 responsible guards in every ward, 484 wards in Kano. And we had about 10,000 Hisba guards. Ask anybody living in Kano will tell you that from that time up to this moment is one of the secrets of the various the peace we are experiencing in Kano. The community, they were not carrying any guns. This kind of giving them guns, they don't even carry a stick. But the commitment, people have accepted them. They are monitoring their community. The slightest thing in the community, they will report, they will meet, and then they will discuss. I made it a compulsory thing. By the last Thursday of every month, that community team, like consultative forum, which supervises the work of the guards, must meet every month. And the local governments must be reporting to us. And at the state level, I set up a 50 consultative forum of wise men across the categories of the society, the politicians, the women, the youth, the religious people, and so on. No, there is no sector of the community that was not represented. We meet every month. And I gave that forum. No, there is no-go area there. They discuss anything, the challenges in government. So you find that there is this chain. So I think, unfortunately, the security thing is one of the things on the street. Another thing is the issue of hunger. I am from the School of Thought of Malam Kano, which says that no matter what program any government gives you, no matter the policy, so long as it does not lead to easy access to food, he said it's rubbish. The number one thing is let there be food to every citizen. If you are not sure of food, that will lead you to anarchy, chaos, and so on. So I think these two major issues, I think, are the common issues on the street. No easy access to food and insecurity. We cannot deny that that is really a major challenge that government has to really sit up. All this issue of infrastructure, the road, the railway, the electricity that we're talking about, yes, they are major requirements in development and growth. But basically, I think to carry the general public along, we must really address these two major issues, insecurity and easy access to food. Now, before we go into other things, I want to quickly make a comment on this control of the parties. There is one fraudulent thing that is common to all the parties. This issue of the governor or the president as the leader of the party. Yeah. This is political corruption. Exactly. It's not in any of the political parties' constitution. It's unconstitutional. There is nowhere in APC or PDP. I've been to all the parties, and I was a participant in writing the party's constitution or reviewing the constitution. What the constitution spells out is that the leader of the party at every level is the elected chairman of that party. This is one of the things that is giving us all this control. He referred us to the Second Republic of the MPN days. One of the elder statesmen in Nigeria, Alhaji Tanko Yakase, who was this political advisor to Shagari, was not too long ago sharing with us that during that time, the political leadership, Akiloya and Co., they meet every Tuesday of the week. They will invite the president, the vice president, they will invite the Senate president, they will invite the leaders of the National Assembly. They meet every week. And the party will ask them, what did you do last week and what are you going to do next week? He said they meet every week under the control of the party. Even the president reports them. They report to the party leadership. And whatever decision is taken there, the president will see it as a divine instruction. And he will be reporting the following week that we decided last week what to do. What did you do so far? But today, this fraudulent attitude of governor is the leader, and it has entered into their heads. President is the leader. No, the party is leadership. And unfortunately, the leaders of the parties too, that were being fraudulently being brought in, have come to accept this, that they are not the leaders. And this is the beginning of the failure of the political system. So long as the party leadership does not feel that they are in charge, a national chairman sitting to query the president, please, why do you do that? Or the state chairman. But when you appoint your boys who run cap in hand, And so you will never get the control of the parties, and this is part of the problem.
But Senator, I think you were part of this, as you said. You've been in PDP, you've been in APC at least.
Yeah.
You've seen when we really left with dread, I would say, talking about the leadership
of the parties.
The issue of leader of the party just came on board and started being implemented thereabouts some 15 years ago, thereabout in our democracy days. And you were there and you saw it. I mean, that couldn't have been so much of an easy sell for any leader at the top to have done it. But it so seemed that it went through, and people are accepting. Although we know that Nigerians are, very fond and very attractive to positions, and everybody wants to be called this, that at any point in time. So we just accepted it.
Yeah. Well, I think, unfortunately, there has to be the courage at a certain point that we need to really bring in the change. Unfortunately, our recruitment process, the leadership of the parties is also very faulty. I hope we'll one day get over this. And when the recruitment process is faulty and is wrong, and you don't bring in people on the basis of their competence, on the basis of their ability, the capacity to lead, the tendency is they appoint their boys, errand boys, to be leadership of the parties, and the control will not be there. I think where we'll begin to get it right is where we are lucky to have the president and the governors to appreciate the fact that they are really not in charge of the parties. Okay. The parties are in charge. Okay. So let's elect the right people in charge, and then we get it right.
All right, thanks. Let me break the rhythm once and return to Tony Abolo in Benin. Mr. Tony Abolo, I asked the question, what is the citizen satisfaction with our democracy 23 years on? Can we attempt a reading of this?
Yes, we certainly can. And I hope I'm not going to start on a funny note, which is to say that Governor Senator Shekarawu is an indication of citizen satisfaction. He's been moving, and he has not moved into NNPP. That is a measure of dissatisfaction. Then you now see P2B running out of PDP to go into Labour. That is a measure. But I think more indicative of citizen measure and democracy, citizen satisfaction measurement, without the benefit of maybe a scientific data gathering and analysis, to make it more valid in terms of inquiry. Look at the surge of people going for PVC. Nothing is as indicative as the people themselves are so dissatisfied with all that they have seen in the last 40, 50, 60 years. And they want now to express themselves. And one of our discussants did say that, people, Senator Ajibola, when he was talking about people want to be able, as an indication of democracy, to vote people of their choice. And that's why we're looking forward, and all the people surging to the INEC offices to register, either doing it online or however they're doing it, is to show you that they now want to be able to take back their country. They want to be able to make a statement. And the presence of the presidential candidates is driving the enthusiasm, in order that people can now say, oh, whatever choice you make, well, you stand by it. But in any case, they want to be able to say that now that INEC and technology is making a lot of difference, which for me, if you want to look at how we have grown, I'm not going to look more at infrastructure, or look at the roads, or look at education, or look at how agriculture has grown or not grown. I want to look at it that with technology in the INEC servers, you can now take your thumbprint or take your card or whatever you're going to do, and then the polling unit will upload whatever are the results, and we are trusting that it goes straight into the database of INEC, and that will now tell us that we have made sure that votes really, really count. And that is why there has been apathy. And that apathy has led us to see that politicians take over that vacuum and put in anybody. And that's why we have to look again at the delegate system. We cannot, because of this over monetization, we must look at it that it's a scary thing that if you have more money, then you become the president. If you have more money, you become the governor. If you have more money, you become the senator. No way. We have to come to some sensible moral standards. Even if morality doesn't go into politics, just like law, we must begin to bring some kind of sensible public norm, public morality into our politics in such a way that when your votes count, the people you select, and you would have looked clearly at the antecedents, and the parties themselves will also, through the delegate system, if they purify themselves, give us the right people whom we can look up to that. Look, this will make a difference in the next 4 years. Because what we've been getting, we're not satisfied. And so that is my own assessment and an assumptive approach to us looking at citizen satisfaction with our democracy in the last few years.
Tony, let's return to the studio here and then hear much more from Ibrahim Lemo. You've heard what Tony just said about the citizen satisfaction, and indeed when we place side by side this satisfaction with the poverty which the senator talked about, and of course the monetization of the polity generally, if I may put it that way, so enlarged, you find out that a lot more needs to be done. As Sirajuddin said, civic education needs to come in here. Now, 23 years down the line, virtually, students are not really satisfied, we must say. But has the education really been enough for them to get to be dissatisfied, I would say? Or is there any other thing that makes them much more dissatisfied apart from poverty?
I think there are, and I think I want to begin from one very vital point, and that is the essence of democracy is to make wise choices in a way that Mr. A is going to deliver, if he is there, more likely to deliver than Mr. B. And you cannot achieve that if there is no level of education, enlightenment, sensitization. You can't achieve that if there is no continuous connection and interaction between party organs, party leadership with the person on the street. This is completely absent at present. I can tell you confidently that the only thing that happens is you have parties with officials who don't do anything, who don't connect with the man on the street except election year. If you cannot connect except election year, how do you actually educate? How do you enlighten? So you have a problem there. The level of education is quite low. Political education, His Excellency referred to Malam Aminu Kano. This is one leader who had made his whole life a part of the common man's life. He is within them. He is always 24/7 interacting with them. Do we have that in our current politicians? We don't. They only remember you when it is the time, the year for canvassing for votes. So this continuity is not there. This education is not there. People don't consider it an obligation that I have to do this or that to ensure that I am connected with the electorate. That is one aspect. The second aspect of it is the internal politics of the parties has no provision for that. I will agree with everybody. Most of us will also agree with it to subscribe to the idea that, like somebody, one of us said, political parties are special purpose organization just for winning election, for going there. It's not for producing the development we are talking about. There is lack of innovation. We don't think creatively. Politicians don't think creatively. I will give you an example. For instance, I can't imagine a member of the House of Assembly, a member of House of Reps, or a distinguished senator coming to dispute motorcycles. I have gone against this idea of distributing motorcycles to, young men in the name of development. Because to me, you are actually, demotivating them from doing productive activities. If you go to our rural areas, you find mostly only the old women, the smallest among us growing, children, old men and women. They are the ones left at the village level. Everybody goes to get machine and come to the city to do Okada. And they are becoming a nuisance. To get a vehicle, motorcycle to somebody who's supposed to be a strong person who can farm and produce food, like he said, for food to be on the table. You are giving him machine to migrate from the rural area to the city, and he becomes a nuisance, and you start having, problem. Crime will increase and a lot of things. Now, another perspective is we have a kind of a political, mindset that believes that you have to move from one party to another. The migration from one party to another is itself a problem. That's the way I look at it. It is itself a problem. If you migrate from one party to another tomorrow, you lose your seats, your primaries in one party, and you go to another. Consistently, you are not developing a culture. That is one other aspect. Now, in terms of satisfaction, are we satisfied? We are not. As a political actor, I am not satisfied with the process because of a lot of monetization. Because we believe that I have a chance to confront my governor or my senator, but he goes to dish out some small money, and with all the reality of what I represent, everybody will move. The governor said, the senator said, not because I have no points, I have no issue to tackle, but because the money has changed. And one very important point I want to stress here is, how can you be satisfied in a system where there's no justice, no fairness, no equity? You have a problem with that. If you don't have justice, if you don't have equity, if you don't go for the ensuring fairness, how can I trust you? So trust is an important thing. And for us, in the as members of former House of Representatives, Thai Republic rather, our members have that kind of issue. I'll just take 1 minute to talk about it. In 1992, 1993, when we were in the house, we were actually, it was patriotism that brought us out. The best of us, best professionals in their young age, in the name of new breedism, new breed, we were encouraged, you have to come out, you have to build a country, and we all left our professions. Some of us were lecturers, some of us were businessmen, some of us were real professionals. We came to the house. And we stayed all the time we were there. We were not paid salaries. We were paid allowances. Right? And we worked very well. During our period, we were so strict and we were so, patriotic enough that we were the one checking ourselves. I will give you one illustration. I was a member of the, services committee.
Okay, Honorable Lemo.
Yes, let me just make this last point.
We will pause you.
Okay.
We will pause you and take quickly also the intervention by Senator Ajibola Bashiru on this whole issue of assessing citizen satisfaction with democracy. Because at the end of the day, if you took the Jeremy Bentham imperative of the greatest good for the greatest number, that would be one of the ends of democracy and the promise of democracy. Senator Ajibola Bashiru, what's your take on this?
I think largely I will disagree with some of the observations made by the previous commentators. I think in logic, it's what's called fallacy of hasty generalization. It appears that there is a generalization in assessment of satisfaction of citizens to elected officials, politicians, and putting people holding political offices. We must know that there is not just one constituencies and one responsibility when it comes to assessment. As of today, you have the president, who is the executive head of the federal government. You have 36 state governors. You have 109 senators. You have 360 constituencies for the House of Representatives. So if you want to make an assessment, you cannot make a general banner assessment of citizen satisfaction on a general note. Otherwise, you will be guilty of fallacy of ASI generalization. So in making an assessment, you have to make an assessment. One, do you want to assess the executive at the national level, headed by the president and the president, how far have they fared? You want to assess the constituencies of the senators, 109 of them in number, 360 House of Rep, and so on and so forth, up to state assembly. So I will not be in tandem with making general banner position about whether citizens are satisfied or not, but rather the study will be what is happening at each level of electoral representation. As far as I'm concerned, at the risk of sounding immodest, after day before yesterday marked my 3rd year as a senator, I've come up with a scorecard which I call the 3-year scorecard, which is highlighting the promise I made when I was contesting against what I've been able to deliver in the past 3 years. And I also know that some other of our colleagues have also lived up to the expectation of what they put in their manifesto. So it will be uncharitable to now lay blame of some inadequacies on an archetypal politician who is not in tune with the demands and yearnings of his constituents. I think also it's also good to also note that when people talk about empowerment program, it is good to talk with it when you are really in touch with reality. One of our commentators here mentioned that it is wrong to have given motorcycle to people as a form of empowerment. Perhaps if he's seen it as that regard, is quite unfortunate. What we know is that the reality is that not all our people are productively engaged now. There has to be a kind of mitigation of the challenges that our teeming youth are made. If there's no demand for our motorcycle transportation, nobody will take it. Then there's also this idea that motorcycle is only for people who want to use it for transportation. Some of my constituents are from rural areas, like in the Federal and some part of Ulu and Odoti. I know some of the beneficiaries of motorcycle are not using it to ride it commercially, but they are using it for the purpose of assisting transportation to their farm. So this general statement about whether politicians do well or they don't do well has to be in the context of specific experience and specific development in every constituent. For instance, part of...
thank you so much, Senator Surajuddin. Thank you so very much for that insight. We are just really being pressed for time. I really have to have 1 or 2 issues here to discuss. Senator Ibrahim Shekaru. Lemu said when they were in the Third Republic, they came with full enthusiasm. The commitment to serve their people. Going back to the Fourth Republic, 1999, same was the issue at the beginning of 1999 when democracy started, which of course we are taking stock right now. And as we moved into democracy, 5, 10, 15 years into democracy, we saw this, the derailing or the diminishing of this interest and the, reduction of this enthusiasm among the public. And one would really want to ask, are the politicians really the cause for this? Have they really been very much aware of the fact that people are really getting off, their own sleeves from this very fact of the fact that they are not really satisfied with this happening and now leaving the real morality of politics into something else? When money came in, we can see how the delegates started behaving, and now we can also, we don't know where we're going to end up. So, be part of it.
Well, thank you very much. I think going back to what I said earlier on, the beginning of this decadence is the issue of the failure to allow credible leadership of the political parties.
Okay.
Because that is part of the recruiting process. When you bring in fraudulent leaders, with all due respect, who will connive with the leadership in the state, the governor at that stage, and they try to interfere, not allowing the right people. Not too long ago, many of us had crises because of the the process of the congresses. In fact, in my state, we had cause to even go through the litigation of going to the court. What they did, they sat in the room. You can imagine in every ward there are 27 elected, there's supposed to be 27 elected executives at every ward. We have 484 wards. If you multiply, you're talking about 15,000 people. Some 3-4 people sat in the room and wrote all the names. All. Not even my ward. My ward. Today I don't know the ex-officio of my ward. Not to talk of the leadership. Somebody sat down there and write. What would have done is to get the stakeholders. There are stakeholders at every level. But some people sitting at government house, writing the names of all the executive at ward level, the names of all the executive at the local government and state level, writing all the names of the delegates. So it's not, the process is not open, it's not transparent, it's not all inclusive, and therefore, and this is how you produce the leadership of the party that end up producing the candidates. And so you end up getting people, the wrong people, with all due respect, in places at all the levels. So I think that is where, until and unless really we sit up and look at the structure of the political parties. All the parties have beautiful constitutions, well written. But are we respecting the process? Are we respecting this consensus issue? It's been so corrupted. So people think consensus means sitting in a room and writing names.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Excellency and Senator Ibrahim Shekarau. Well, we have a second topic to discuss this morning, and Nadabo, it looks like this subject, the more we get our guests to drill into it, the more ripples you find, and therefore the more consideration.
We've just started.
Yes, we just started. And we will most likely return to other aspects of this. One question we couldn't throw in this morning, and I'm sure it's going to come up subsequently. It's as follows. There is a perception of the inverse relationship between politics and our economic development. Politics in 23 years is said to have been a boom industry. In the meantime, our economy has been shrinking. How do you deal with that? So on that note, we'd like to thank all our four guests who've been with us this morning for today's conversation. Here in the studios, distinguished Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, former governor of Kano State and also former Minister of Education. Thank you always for your insights.
Thank you.
We've also had the benefit of Honorable Dr. Mustafa Ibrahim Lemu. He was a member of the still-born Third Republic that was from 1992 until November 1993. Mustafa Lemu, thank you very much for being our guest this morning. We're also joined via Zoom by distinguished Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru, who chairs the Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Thank you very much for your contribution. And from Benin, we were joined by ageless Tony Abolo, veteran broadcaster, media consultant, and trainer in media studies. I'll tell Tony Abolo's story some other occasion. Tony Abolo, or Mr. Tony Abolo, as he's always likes to remain. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. All right, now we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll get ahead with our second topic, which is on the aviation conference being organized by the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria.